We are at 17 to 18 weeks. And this is my last day of being 18 weeks pregnant. And I feel like you can tell that I am an 18-week human being. This is a dress that I had prior to getting pregnant. And I just feel like if you follow me on TikTok, you saw the way that I was filling this dress out before. It's not the way that I'm filling this dress out now. And it's the most fascinating, amazing thing to be able to like watch your body grow. This is where this is where the bump is. It's hard to like get up and show where my bump is versus like just sitting and just running through it. So that's the reason why you guys haven't been getting bump updates. But if you watch the shorts, I've been doing the bump updates in the shorts. But I'm excited. We are almost headed into 19 weeks and I am coming off a beautiful 2 weeks. This has been, I think I'm in the great phase. The great phase of pregnancy. Like this has to be the great phase. I feel so attractive, and I mean that like physically in terms of like beauty or vanity, right? Like I feel very attractive, but I also mean it at like a metaphysical level in terms of like I feel magnetic. Like I feel very attractive, and I don't know how to describe like the like how good that feels. Like it feels like, obviously from the vanity perspective, like it feels amazing to feel beautiful. And they're like, as I'm growing and I can physically see my bump growing and I can physically see what my body is doing, there is a much deeper, richer, greater appreciation. Like, don't get me wrong. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I have so much respect for my body. Like I have so much respect for what the body is capable of doing, what the mind is capable of doing. Like I've always had an incredibly high regard for our bodies. Now it is like times 100 because I am watching my body do something that it has done before. And the difference between then and now is, one, I was a child and I was very disassociated from that experience. And I didn't have enough life perspective to stay connected, right? Like I experienced my pregnancy as a 17-year-old teenager, and I had only been on the planet for 17 years. So I had no perspective of my body's capacity, my body's like way it worked. Like I had no capacity for any of that. I had no knowledge of the depths of my body. Now, understanding like what my body has been through, understanding like the ways in which I've healed my body, like understanding like just so many different things about my body. Like I have just never experienced such like gratitude, appreciation, love, respect, and perspective about my body as I have in these just like last 2 weeks of adjusting and adapting to this life that my body is creating. And I'm so grateful. Like I just, and here's the thing, even when I was 17, I had this sort of like, wow, this is a miracle type like perspective on being able to conceive, carry, and have a child. But now that I'm older, I have lived enough experiences to know what I'm talking about. Like I've always said that pregnancy and childbirth is a miracle. Like it's a miracle that I think we often take for granted, right? Like, and when I say we, I just mean human beings in general. Like I think we forget that like the way every single person that you're looking at, every single human that you are looking at was conceived, then carried, then delivered out of a human body. And then we think about our bodies, right? And what our bodies are capable of, or what we tell ourselves our body is capable of. Like, my body's not strong enough, my body's not this, my body's not that. And it's just like, for some of us, our bodies can make humans wild. Like, they're like, no one can ever convince me that I'm not like the most spectacular, like that I'm not a superhuman. You couldn't, going through this experience again, you couldn't convince me that I'm not a superhuman, like, and that human beings are not like amazing and incredible. Like, and I get it, people are like, oh, mammals do this all the time. Yeah, whatever. I'm human and I'm making another human. This is mind-blowing. Like, I've made kidneys, I've made a brain. Like, at this point in my life, I've made 4 kidneys, the 2 that my son has and the 2 that this baby has. I'm just out here making kidneys. Like that's what I did with my life today, is I made kidneys. I mean, not today. I think I made most of those organs in the first trimester, but you get my point, is that like, we're kind of amazing. And I think that I've been saying that for a very long time in my brand and in my business, and to get to live out that level of my own belief in human beings, like through this experience, and to just be fully conscious to it and to be healthy enough to catalog it. My gosh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. That said, let's get into the symptoms of 18 weeks. I have definitely gained more weight. I've gained more weight like overall, but I'm still much smaller than even what I imagined myself to be, because before I got pregnant, I don't think it is like full-blown body dysmorphia. I don't like taking real diagnoses and like playing around with them. However, I will say I had some body distortion, and I think it's because I grew up very religious, and I grew up in a family where I have been the smallest my whole life, but I'm not necessarily like, I've been the smallest person in my family for my whole life. And I grew up in a religious family and a religious community. And like, there's like this level of like self-denial, body modesty, like thing that happens when you are a very small person around other people who are not small, and modesty is used as like an umbrella for all. And so what is modest to a heavier set person is very different than what could potentially be modest for a smaller person. And so dressing modestly, I think, tricked me into thinking I was much, not tricked, but like maybe conditioned me into thinking that I was much larger than what I actually am, and that I'm actually much smaller. Like, yeah, I have curves and stuff like that, but I'm actually much smaller than what I actually thought I was. And so it's been interesting to actually gain weight and see the difference between this is me with actually the amount of weight. Like, the weight that I have now is like the weight that I thought I was walking around with all these years. In reality, like, absolutely not. like absolutely not. So it's fascinating to me, and something that I keep saying to my fiance. I'm like I'm so small, like I'm so, and he's like, yeah, you've always been very small. And it's just like, there's like this awareness of it. But I say this to say, like, I'm gaining weight, and it's just been this really beautiful experience to have this healing of my perspective and this growing. And I know that it's positively impacting the baby and positively impacting me. It's been really beautiful to have this very healing thing, because what's happening in my mind is that the image of my body that I have in my mind, I'm now walking around with that body, but it's giving me an opportunity to heal the part of me that was looking at my actual body incorrectly. So it's just been a very healing, very cathartic thing. But weight gain, I'm pretty sure I gained weight in all the other weeks too, but this is the week where I'm so conscious about it, because this size is how everything with the exception of the belly, but like my hips, my thighs, my butt, my boobs, my arms, this is the size that I thought I was walking around as, and I am not. I am not at all. Another symptom that I'm having, and I talked about this a little bit on TikTok, is tender teeth. You guys know in the first trimester, my teeth started to crumble, and they're just not as healthy as they should be. And so they are still tender. My gums are fine, but like my teeth, like I have to be very mindful when I'm like biting down on something. If I have something cold, if I have something hot, I just have to be very mindful of that. And then another symptom, which I think is interesting, given that I am gaining weight, is that I have zero appetite. And so sometimes like my fiance will be like, what do you want to eat? And you know, this is the time to lean in and be like, oh, this and this and this, because I'm pregnant. What are the chances of him saying no, right? But I don't have a taste for anything. I don't have an appetite. I have like, outside of maybe being thirsty, like there's just no urge to like, I gotta eat. Whereas like my first trimester, like it's like I had to have food in my mouth all the time. I was so hungry. And now it's sort of like tapered off in a way, which is very noticeable because I was like eating everything in sight. And now, like, if we go out to eat, I'm like actually having a doggy bag, which is not something that I had before, but I'm assuming that that's just a symptom to what's developing. I have a doctor's appointment in a couple of weeks, and so I'll talk to my doctor about that. I mean, if it comes up, I guess they'll probably weigh me to see if it makes a difference, but it's just something that I've noticed. And then the other symptom that has actually been the scariest symptom, and I'm feeling much better about it now, but it was very scary when it first happened, is I'm having round ligament pain. And I started to have it. I had a speaking engagement and I needed to travel. And I started to have it a couple of days before it was time for me to travel. And I was very concerned because if round ligament pain just feels like contractions, like Braxton Hicks contractions, not real ones. And the knowing part of me knew I wasn't miscarrying, but the anxious part of me was like, oh my gosh, is this about to be a miscarriage? Because it feels very much like contractions. And so it was happening a couple of weeks before it was time for me to travel. And so I'm like, is this just how my body is responding to my work, right? Because I get nervous before my speaking engagements because I care about every single one of my audiences. So I still have a surge of adrenaline and emotions and things like that when I get on stage. And this would have been my first performance on stage because you guys know I had to cancel speaking engagements in my first trimester because I physically couldn't do it. And so this is the first time of me getting on stage pregnant, and I just so happens that I had to travel. And so I didn't know if it was like the stress and the anxiety and the adrenaline and the way that my body was responding to typically what happens to me before I'm about to go and deliver a speech, or there was something more going on. I talked to my OB. We found out that it was round, well, not found out, but she suggested that it was round ligament pain. She gave me a couple positions to lie in, but it was very scary. It was very intense. And they were maybe like the day before I got on the plane. And I always fly into my speeches like a day ahead. So the day before I got on the plane, then the day that I was there, like the day before the speech, just round ligament pain, like pretty persistent.